Last time on Building Resilience, we were salvaging some windows from one part of the house and chucking these windows in the dumpster. But on resilient construction sites, the dumpsters are recycle bins. And so are the recycle bins, like these PVC recycle bins from AZEK. This time, we're going to dig into the framing process, which is minor on this job because there's only a couple of walls and a small section of roof to frame, which the crew knocks out pretty quickly. So we're going to look at some of the clumsy framing from the former remodeler and explore the engineered products and hardware used for framing like you give a damn.
All right, we are making really good progress out here at the Gruder house. As you can see, we've demoed out quite a bit of the structure. We've got some roof torn off. We've gotten into structural framing. We've got a couple of really beautiful LVLs, big, beautiful beams up there that are picking up that roof load and transferring it to that lonely PSL column there.
That lonely PSL column, which is carrying about half the roof, has about a 6-inch square footprint, which is called a point load. That point load must be transferred directly to something solid, like the foundation, or the whole thing will come crashing down. Because of physics. The good news is that on the way to the foundation, the point load is transferred to a bigger post, which is made of a lot of wood.
That's a lot of wood. It's a bunch of sticks, and they're carrying a lot of weight. You know, to the untrained eye, it looks fine. I mean, to the previous builder, it looked fine. But it's not. Let's look at what it's picking up. Up here, these two studs are picking up this triple LVL. That's carrying this half of the house. This is the bearing wall of the house, and it's been removed. So we've got a bunch of weight that way and a bunch of load this way. The next 2.25, 2.5 LVL are picking up this double LVL, carrying floor and roof load going this direction and bringing it to this point. And then finally, we have this stud here, which is picking up the original rim joist. It's a balloon frame house, so the rim would have been let in. And then because we took out that bearing wall as well, we've added this 5.5-inch PSL column. But it gets worse. If we go up, we'll see that there's yet another PSL that's dropped on this, plus an additional triple LVL that's picking up parts of the second floor and bringing them over here, as well as another beam from the attic that's coming here. So is it carrying a skyscraper? Not quite, but let me tell you, there is a lot of weight coming down on these sticks, but here is a big problem. This is a post. This is a collection of sticks. This is not a post. Each of these sticks alone are able to withstand the compressive force. They're able to withstand that load that's coming down on them. But where they are weak is in lateral force and in shear. We have to make these guys into a team so they can resist those additional forces. We have 3 ways that we can do that. The first is we could take all this out and we could put in a new PSL or Glulam column. The second, we smear this with a bunch of construction adhesive, we laminate it with 7/16 OSB, bunch of 8D nails on a 6-inch pattern, like a big gusset plate. But there is a third solution, and it's super sexy. This 12-inch beauty that I just pulled out of my pocket. The Simpson Strong Drive makes these really cool structural fasteners. And we're gonna drive this fastener through all of these individual 2x and bond them with this column over here. And in that way, they will be forced to act as a single unit. Every 8 inches staggered, we're gonna have one of these 12-inch beauties. It's kind of like magic.
Okay, it's not like magic. It's engineering, which is based on physics. Speaking of physics, here's some in real life. Steven's demonstrating a lever in action to pull an old wall plumb while a brace is screwed into that lonely PSL post. With the outside wall where it wants to be, they can start stacking more beams to load up that post because they know Michael's going to try to squeeze the layers together in a few minutes, and they want to mess with him. Speaking of layers, here's a cool tip for flushing up layers of a built-up beam, a partially driven screw, and a pry bar. I know it seems obvious, but some people don't know it. When Saul is satisfied that the beam is level, David fills in the studs below the end and he'll screw those studs together into a post instead of a collection of sticks. Speaking of posts and beams, there are a lot of engineered options for these structural members. Because trees aren't big enough anymore to grow solid posts and beams, lumber companies have come up with ways to mash small trees into big beams.
Morning wood is the best.
Okay, you're rolling.
So everyone's familiar with like OSB and plywood, which are laminated either sheets of wood or chips of wood that are squished and glued together. But we also use them in our structural work, right? We've got our 2x4s, our 2x6s, and then we have got the really fun stuff, which is our LVLs, our PSLs, our Glulams. And this isn't wood, this is a piece of steel because, well, we're also using steel because steel has a purpose and a modern carpenter has to work with steel. That's just how it is. We find that we use a lot of PSLs. PSLs are cool. There are parallel strand lumber. And so they take these long strands, they line them all up so they're going the same direction, and then they glue them up. The moisture content is really, really low. And what makes PSLs particularly interesting is that they are strong in multiple directions. So they're really, really great for columns. We use them a lot for posts. In fact, in this project, all of our major posts are made out of PSLs, but you can also use them in this format, or this format, or this format, or this format. So depending on what your engineer is looking for, PSLs are a very flexible and dynamic material. Glulams, they're really like a bunch of 2x material that's been glued up. That's why they're called glulams, right? They're laminated, glued up pieces of wood. And glulams are actually stronger in this force, in that downward force, and not as strong in some of the other dimensions. But where glulams are particularly useful is when we're doing really, really large beams, where maybe the top of the beam has different requirements than the bottom of the beam. And so when we engineer a glulam, we can basically design it so there's a top and a bottom, and they can achieve some pretty incredible spans. And then we have LVL, and LVL gets talked about a lot. This is what we use oftentimes in our header material. So this is probably our most common beam material. And this is laminated veneer lumber. So the PSL was strands, this is veneers. This is like plywood, really. And because it's laminated veneers, and if you look at this really closely, you'll see where they overlap, we can manufacture really, really, really long lengths, kind of infinite lengths. In fact, both PSLs and LVLs are manufactured into what are called billets. Like they're these big giant pieces that then we cut them down into the sizes that we need. LVLs are really strong this way, right? Not as strong this way. Mostly strong this way. So that's what we use those for. And then when we have a lot of weight or a big span, we don't want deflection, we usually move over to steel. And in steel, what we can achieve, maybe in a 7 or 8 inch tall piece of steel, in an LVL or a PSL or a glulam, might have needed to be 12 or 14 inches in dimension. So for us, if you don't want a header to stick down from the ceiling, steel is a great option. Speaking of steel, we're also using a lot of steel in other places, and a lot of it is a lot smaller. Like, for example, we've got these structural screws from Simpson. They're pretty amazing what they can do. This beautiful big plate here, this is going to be holding up a big 8x8 post that was existing in the house. This fun one is actually for a funky rafter detail where the rafters are coming down and landing on a beam that then is traveling off in another direction. In order to make it work, we actually bend these things up so they're working like that. Whenever we think about beams, right, we normally think about beams with like, here's a post and there's a beam, right? And so the post is holding up the beam, right? And then we've got a bunch of other things that land on top of the beam. That's how we normally think about like post and beam. But we can actually do it where these things, these are like our joists, right, are sitting in a hanger like this, and then the beam is actually above the joists, right, like this, and then this beam will eventually go and land on a post like this. Right? All of the floor joists are now hanging off the beam versus resting on the beam. And that is super, super useful when, again, I don't want a beam that's sticking down into the room. So in this case, I'm gonna go up into the attic. I'm gonna put this big beam in the attic. I'm gonna pick up all of those floor joists in the attic. They're all gonna hang off that beam, and that beam's gonna drop down onto a bearing wall on a post. That's pretty.
Ah, geez, look at this. I guess the former guy wasn't happy rotting the walls and overstressing the pile of sticks on the first floor. Look what he did to this wall.
This is a mess, and we like to play a little game called Find the Load Path in this little bearing wall. And honestly, I have no idea where it's going. I don't think it's, there's like half of a stick back here that's connected to that, but that's not actually connected to that over there. And then they've doubled up this guy over there, but that's over nothing, and this has been cut out. I mean, it's just like, yeah. But here's what we figured out. This staircase back here is actually being held up by the first floor joist in the hallway, which is super stressed out. And we can see it from down below. There's this one joist that's just like pushing down, and we can see that there's a bunch of deflection on it. So shame on the previous remodelers who carved this all up, and we are gonna do our best to fix it, because yes, we could slap drywall up over it, but that would be unfair to that poor floor joist in the floor.
It would also be dishonest, devious, and probably illegal. Something that's not illegal, though, is sealing up the leaky wet crawl spaces with sheets of rigid styrofoam and froth packs of spray polyurethane. Because again, the former guy messed it up.
I'm standing at the intersection between really old and a little bit old. This is 1910, and this is 2001. And this is an addition that was put on by another builder, and they attached it to the outside of the house, and they built it with the best of intentions, but it's a classic example of, to quote John Tooley, you can do the right thing the right way, the right thing the wrong way, the wrong thing the right way, and the wrong thing the wrong way, but only one of them is right. And this would be an example of doing the wrong thing the right way.
So we'll dig into those crawl spaces next time on Building Resilience.